Well, hello, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Welcome to the Holy Shiftball podcast, where we raise your frequency one cosmic giggle at a time. I'm Bethany, your energetic bestie, alongside my fabulous co host, Sharon. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
Hey, Bethany, I am wonderful. How are you?
Hi, girl. I am absolutely doing well. I kind of had a little bit of a funk, a little bit of sickness, but getting over it, feeling better. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to know and good to hear.
Yes, good to hear. Okay, so today we are officially opening our brand new series around consciousness. And Sharon, what that has been so much fun, hasn't it?
Absolutely. We've had a lot of fun with it so
We
far.
have
Yeah.
been interviewing, guests behind the scenes. I mean, brilliant minds, professors, researchers, teachers, people who have lived this work for decades. And today, after the show, we have even more interviews lined up.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, yes. This series is not about making consciousness complicated. It's about, breaking it down and someone brand new can understand it and really get a sense of, what it is. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, Bethany. We're, oh my gosh, today is just one of those days. The energy is wonky, let me tell you.
Mhm.
But last week, so yeah, our Holy Shift Ball moment this week is that last week, Bethany and I had a dual Holy Shift Ball moment where we didn't realize the other one was having it, but our minds melded. Hard to believe, I know. That we actually have minds. But anyway, we are, as Bethany said, we're inviting experts, researchers, and frequency humans to explain how consciousness actually works. No jargon, no smoke clouds, just real talk in language that we can all understand.
Yeah.
So we'll explore how your thoughts shape reality, how awareness shapes your energy, and what's happening behind the scenes of this human experience. Does consciousness live within the body? Are thoughts something we create internally?
Mm.
Or are we extracting them from the quantum field? Like, how is this all working? So we are so excited to bring you this because, expanding your consciousness shouldn't require a PhD. It should, just curiosity and open mind and a great conversation. And and Bethany, best part. Today I'm just not on my game. I am not. It's terrible. What is the name of our
Ready?
consciousness exploration?
You ready for
Drum
this?
roll.
It is called Consciousness for Dummies.
Woo! Dummies like us.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, Sharon, enough about us. I'm
Right.
excited to see and hear from our guest today. Who do we have on the show today?
We have Kam Knight. He's a mentor, an international speaker, and a best-selling author of over a dozen books that are focused on mental, emotional, and physical performance. He's known for delivering fresh insights that challenge traditional thinking, which is so refreshing. Kam offers a practical, unconventional strategies that consistently produce real-world results. His books have become gold standards in their fields, which isn't surprising. And Kam specializes in training people to dramatically improve their memory. Like remembering why'd you walk into this room? Or what was that person's name we met 5 minutes ago? Uh, oh, we need Kam. We need Kam in the
No
worst.
shit. No shit. I need to know this.
Exactly.
Without
So
further ado, let's bring
exactly.
Kam Knight onto the show.
Hi, Kam.
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Yes, we are so glad to have you here. Well, Kam, tell us, what is your holy shift ball
Okay,
moment?
so first I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Kam Knight. I'm a coach, international speaker, and author of a dozen books in the area of mental, physical, and emotional performance, which include memory, that have sold over 500,000 copies and have over 10,000 ratings on Amazon. Now I talk about a concept called internal resistance, which answers a question I had my entire life, and that is, why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. Now, at the time, there were no clear answers when I had this question. The best answers that I came across were that you needed motivation or that you need discipline. And yes, motivation and discipline are part of the equation, but I think it's just a piece to a much bigger puzzle. And over the last 15 to 20 years, that question lingered in my mind. Every time I was stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Why don't I just do this dang thing and get the result that I want? And so the more books I read, coaching I did, and seminars I attended, the more I learned about the complexities of the human brain. And over time, my brain was processing all this information in the background without realizing it. And out of nowhere, I had this epiphany or shift ball moment where I'm like, wait a minute, there's a part of our mind designed to hold us back. There's a part of our brain built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part resistance. And it's this brick wall that we hit anytime that we want to do something, but we can't, no
Hi,
matter
Ron.
how much we want to do it. And so that was really my shift ball moment that got me to kind of move away from books and started talking more about internal resistance.
Yes. What is one you say about mind mapping? I thought, what is mind mapping?
Yeah, so mind mapping is actually a little bit different than internal resistance. A lot of times when I am on a show and people find out about my books, they really get honed in on the mind mapping and they think it's something related to mapping the mind, but it's actually just a note-taking technique. So traditional note-taking is done line by line, starting at the top of the page and working down. Whereas mind mapping works very different from that, where you don't start at the top of the page, but in the center. And instead of going line by line, you expand outward like a spider web. And the reason this works so well is because all of our thoughts and ideas aren't floating aimlessly in our heads. They're
Mhm.
all linked to each other like a spider web. And so anytime we have a thought or idea, it triggers other thoughts, ideas, and memories, and those will trigger even more. And in many ways, mind mapping resembles the way the brain takes in, processes, and stores information because every idea is connected to other ideas, which is how our brain likes to store and remember information.
Mm.
So when you talk about internal, let's go back to internal resistance because that's, I think, the topic. Well, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you mentioned it, so I want to ask a follow-up question on it. Where does internal resistance live in your brain, and why does it exist? Why is there internal resistance?
Yeah, so great question. And to answer that question, it helps to understand that the part of the brain that creates wants works separately from the part that allows us to act on the want. So we have one part of the brain that's creating wants, and in many ways, it was never built to see if a want was worth pursuing or going after. Its only job is to create wants. And in many ways, it's cranking out wants one after another at a pace faster than anyone can achieve. What that means is that it doesn't check to see if a want is achievable, if it's going to be fulfilling, or if it's going to be even safe to do. It just creates wants. So it really helps to have another part of the brain that evaluates our wants to make sure that we are picking the right wants to pursue. And this is the part which I call resistance that does that. So anytime a want stands before us, it evaluates it using a whole host of criteria. So what's really important to understand here is that it is possible for one person's brain inside their head to create both a desire for something and at the same time keep us from going after it. And I know everyone listening and watching right now has felt moments where they want to do this thing, but they feel this resistance or this inability to do it. And it's because of this dynamic that's playing out. Now, I used to think for a long time, whoever created humanity, whether it was God, aliens, or evolution, must have been really sick and twisted because how could they do this to us? How could they create this desire in us
Yeah.
and at the same time keep us from going after it and have to sit in the pain of not having it?
Right.
But when you look at it from this perspective, it makes sense because the mechanisms are separate. And so this is why we have a part of the brain that holds us back. Now, the challenge is that this part can actually go a little too overboard, meaning it can hold us back from too many things, and even the things that could be very beneficial and truly fulfilling for us. Now, there's also the other side of this as well. Some people have a resistance piece that's not too overactive. And so it doesn't do a good job of restraining that person's wanting mechanism, which is why some people are kind of going all over the place. They go from one want to another, or they have these addictive behaviors or personalities where they can't stop them from doing something no matter how harmful it is. And it's because that resistant part of them isn't as strong or strong enough to overpower the wanting side.
Wow.
How big does the ego play a part in the internal resistance?
So it really helps to first define what we see as ego or what is ego in the first place. The way I see ego is that it comes down to our want. All want is ego. And even wanting a glass of water is ego because we want that glass of water so we can continue our life and continue to live longer. So it's a way for perpetuating ourselves, and in a way it's an ego. And so a lot of times when we want something, it's really ego driven, I would say, because want is ego, it's always ego driven. And sometimes our wants are for just the basic necessities: food, water, clothing, shelter, and that's it. But then a lot of our wants go beyond that. It goes for the luxury, for the niceties. And a lot of those are actually related to attention. Because a lot of the things that go outside of our, what's the word, core and basic needs are usually because we want to show off or feel better and superior to others. And so the ego really kind of kicks in as well. Now, a lot of times when you hear people talk about this kind of work, and more or less, our brain is there to defend or protect us, and so the ego is there to protect us, that also plays into it because when we have, let's say, low self esteem or low self worth, and there's a lot of negative and unpleasant feelings associated with that.
Mhm.
So the ego will come in to essentially either cover it or push it down so we don't have to experience that feeling. And what I mean by cover it is if another person senses we have low self esteem, they might take advantage of it. So the ego steps in to kind of cover and block that part of us to show that, hey, we're not as low to, or whatever, to be taken advantage of. So the ego is kind of complicated, but at the most fundamental level, in my opinion, it comes down to our wants. And at the most basic level, it's really our wants are really ego.
And also too, as you say, a protection mechanism, right?
Yeah.
So it protects us. That's fascinating. So I've got like 85 questions running through my head, and I don't know which one to ask first. So if you have another one, Bethany, go ahead. I've got a sort here.
Well, what I'm thinking, what is one tool? What is one thing, one awareness that you could give our audience today that that to help them shift out of the lack, the wanting, and being able to identify the internal resistance? What is one thing that you could, give our audience?
Yeah, so I'll give a couple because this is a pretty deep topic and it really helps to understand the different facets of it so people aren't held back by resistance. The first thing is to understand that both our want and our resistance can get in our way. So I talk about how resistance holds us back, and it's easy to assume that it's resistance that is creating the challenges when we want to do something, but we can't. But interestingly enough, our own wants can create challenges as well. And it's hard to imagine that our own wants can be the very thing that keeps us from going after them. And there's many challenges our wants create. And one of them is kind of what I alluded to earlier, where we have the brain and it's creating endless wants one after another. So it's easy to go from one want to another without making any progress or doing going in it enough where it could be fulfilling. So, we've all experiences where we started something and then we saw the next shiny object and we went to that and then we saw the one after that and then
Squirrel.
to that. Yeah,
Shiny
exactly.
ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So our own, in that sense, I want to create a challenge, but there's other challenges I want to create as well. And I won't go spend too much time on it, but this should help people understand that, oh wow, my own desires can be the very hindrance in going after them. And then the other thing to also help shift us into understanding where our resistance comes from is using a technique called self-talk. So for those who don't know, self-talk are statements that you say or repeat to yourself of the changes that you want to have. So for example, if somebody wanted to improve their health or their fitness, they might start repeating statements like, I am healthy and fit. I exercise regularly and I eat well and things of that nature. The reason I recommend that is because when we're repeating a statement like that, oftentimes our mind will react to the statement. It may say things like, you're not healthy and fit, you haven't exercised regularly, and it might trigger memories of moments in their life where, you know, they weren't very disciplined and things of that nature. And all of that stuff that the mind reacts is a sign of our resistance. It's indicating that we don't have a belief that we can become healthy and fit. And that's where some of our resistance might be coming from. We may have, it may give us indication that we see ourselves as somebody who is the opposite. So now our identity and self-image are coming into play. And if we try to do anything that goes against our identity and its self-image, resistance will rise. So these are some ways that people get some really quick insight into what's causing their resistance. Now, these are self-tools I give to people. There are other ways to access that, and they're a little bit more nuanced and it usually helps to do one-on-one work with me. So I'm going to take a moment to plug myself. If anybody wants to do that, they can reach out to me at coach@kamknight.com. But another way to continue moving past the resistance is to continue repeating those statements. So in the beginning, we repeat them to see how our mind reacts to it and to get data about what our resistance is. But if we actually continue repeating the positive statements, those words actually seep into our unconscious and start to act out what the words describe. So if we start saying things like, I am healthy and fit, over time, we start to actually move in that direction. If we repeat things like, I exercise regularly, or I eat well and only put nourishing foods in my body, over time, our mind starts to support us in that behavior. So, yeah, so this is a very nuanced topic and it goes pretty deep. And I know what I'm giving is pretty like simple, but that's just to get people started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sharon, you have a question?
So how do you train your brain not to be resistant? That came from Ron, but it's a good question, so I'll ask it.
Yeah, so one is with the self-talk is we start repeating the self-talk statements, and it helps to train our brain
But if
to
you don't believe it, then you won't see it. So by just talking, how is that going to shift your reality?
self-talk doesn't require beliefs for them to work. That's where a lot of people get it wrong. They think, well, I don't believe in that statement, or because it creates pain, repeating those statements, that it's not going to work. And in the beginning, yes, we won't believe it. And yes, it does create pain, but we want to keep repeating it so we can get that out of our system.
Would you also say that by doing the self-talk, it does bring you to the present moment? It brings you into now. It brings you into the awareness of what it is that you're choosing to think and feel. Would that be accurate?
That's part of it, but that's not really why I recommend it, because
Okay.
what we want to do is we want to start shifting the programming in our mind. We want to start to reprogram and rewire our mind. And there are many ways to do that. There are things like hypnosis, NLP, mental practice, visualization, and then self talk as well. And why do I start with self talk? Because it's the easiest. Because
Okay.
when we're dealing with resistance, we want to take simple actions that lead to big outcomes. Little things
Nice.
that we can do that can have a big impact. That's because we have resistance. So it's hard to do things, first of all,
Okay.
and it's hard to do things consistently. But
Okay.
if we can find something that's simple that we can start and stay consistent with, that can have big impact, then it'll be helpful.
So would you say self-talk is really akin to when you hear something about yourself, like say someone says that, you hear a superior at work, or you hear a coworker at work say, excuse me, that you're not smart enough, or you shouldn't be in your position because you're not qualified for it, whatever the case may be, or you hear a
Yeah,
sibling say something or whatever, and that sticks with us, and we start forming thoughts and opinions about ourselves surrounding that. So when we use the self-talk, as you suggest, is that similar
it's
to hearing
100%
that?
similar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So words are powerful. They
Yes.
have the ability to kind of create beliefs and self-image and identity. Just by somebody saying, hey, your work is not good, it can actually make us think that we are not capable or
Mhm.
that we don't have what it takes. Even though we didn't actually try, or even though we do have what it takes, just someone's opinions, words can create that. And if we think back to all our experiences growing up, all the bullies that have said, made fun of us, the teachers that said we couldn't sit still, the parents, commenting, all of that seeps into us and creates our how we show up as well as the thoughts we think and the decisions we make. So it
Right.
wasn't dependent on if we truly were capable. It was just that the words the brain was receiving.
Okay.
Not now, if the words have the power to bring us down, they naturally have the power to bring us up. But
Nice.
there is a challenge to that. The way the brain works is that it puts more weight on the negative than the positive. And so it takes much more positive to counteract the negative. Some would say you need five positive statements to counteract the negative. I've
Okay.
heard some say
Okay.
10 to counteract the negative. And I would say for some people, it could take much more.
Okay.
And this is
Well,
where self talk comes in, is because you take those positive statements and you keep repeating them to help counteract the negative. And I know, Bethany, you had mentioned, what if somebody doesn't feel good when they're saying that statement? Well, of course, they're not going to feel good because as you say the positive, it will trigger memory of all the negatives that they've heard, which is why we have to keep saying the positive and trigger the negative until it comes out. And so we get to a point where it's neutral. And then as we keep saying the statement, it'll start to have a more positive reinforcement and feedback loop.
all right. Well, Cam, thank you so much
Wow.
for
Yeah.
sharing that with us. All right, we are going to shift now
Yeah.
into our favorite segment, which is called Shit or Shift. This is
Yeah.
where we're going to pop out some scenarios to you, Cam, and you tell us if it's a shift. Yes, it's expansive. I'm taking it. Woohoo! Bring me some of that. Or if
Yeah.
it's total shit, it's a program. Nope, cut it out. We're running on autopilot, unconsciousness. All
Yeah.
right, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Sharon, you want to pop out your first question, girl?
Okay. Now, Cam, Because you were also labeled as a memory expert, my shitter shift questions are based around that. So um, I apologize. So stress actually helps you remember important things. It sharpens your focus. Shit or shift?
I would say it's shift. The stress can help us get focused.
Okay.
And one of the key things to memory is attention. So a lot of times when we don't remember something, it's not because we have bad memory, it's because we weren't paying attention. The mind cannot store what it does not receive. And so oftentimes stress can help us get focused on something where we are receiving it on a much higher level to be able to store it.
Okay.
Now, that's not always the case because stress has its own challenges because it could keep a person from being able to focus, one, or there are, more physiological and chemical reactive
All
to
right.
things that can hinder the that where it can hinder the ability to remember.
All right. All right. All right. All right, Cam. Someone takes pride in being exhausted as proof they're high performing. Shit or shift?
I would say shit because so let's go back to the concept of internal resistance. We have a part of the brain that creates wants, and then we have another part that evaluates to see if we should do that want. Now, if this part of the brain doesn't give us a green light to act, it it the problem is with this part, when this part doesn't allow us to act, it doesn't tell us that it's holding us back or give us a reason. It actually shows up in a lot of manipulative ways. Some of them include avoidance behavior like television, social media, and video games. And they're obvious avoidance behaviors because when we're doing them, we know we should be doing something else. But then there's not so obvious avoidance behaviors, which I call tricks of resistance. And a lot of those show up where it makes us think we're doing something that's productive when we're actually avoiding what we should be doing. And so exhaustion can give us a feeling that we're being productive or we've done enough things and that's why we're feeling exhausted. But really, if we're not doing the things that are moving the needle forward, it can give the illusion of progress when not. So yeah, I would
Okay.
say it's shit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Cam. An underutilized mind leads to dementia and other cognitive decline diseases. Shit or shift?
I would say shift because everything about us humans revolves around repetition. In order to get good something requires practice. Practice is a form of repetition. For something to become comfortable and easy needs habit. Habit is formed through repetition. It is said success is habit. Success is achieved by repeatedly doing something over and over. Now, there's a concept in personal development called use it or lose it,
Yeah.
meaning if we're not using a particular skill, we begin to lose it and sometimes at an exponential rate. And so if we are not staying active and using our minds in a healthy and intellectual way, it actually starts to we start to lose a lot of our abilities. Even though we may have spent years developing a skill, because we don't stick with it, we actually start losing it, sometimes at an exponential rate.
Oh,
So yeah,
awesome. All right. All right. Shit or shift. A person avoids mapping their thoughts because they are afraid it will expose how messy their thinking actually is. Shit or shift.
100%. People avoid a lot of stuff in order to not expose what's going on internally.
Yes.
And the thoughts is one part of it. If
Yes.
we have a lot of messy thoughts, or if we have negative thoughts, or underneath the negative thoughts, we have unpleasant feelings about ourselves, especially things that we may have done in the past that we're not proud of. The brain likes to cover all of that stuff up.
Yes.
Not only does it like to cover it up, but it makes it difficult for the person to go in and see what's there or to try to clean it up.
Oh,
So yeah, 100% shit.
All right.
Okay. One more? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Excellent. This is great. I'm learning a lot. This is wonderful. Our host says he needs a brain maid. Me too.
We'll ask this one more question. I know
Yeah.
you got a good one, Sharon.
Well, I wish I would have went the internal resistance way, actually. I've been trying to form some in my head, but not
Yeah.
being so successful at that. Let's see.
I've got a good one. I've
Yeah,
got a
go
good
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, someone blames aging for their memory issues while they are stuck scrolling on social media for 4 hours. Shit or shift?
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Too
and
much
here,
data coming into the brain. What would you say? I mean, how does the brain really handle all of this input being, projected to it at all the times? It just feels
uh,
like, for me personally, I have seen, the more that I plug into these social medias, when I get off of it, the mind is just still going,
yeah. So how does it handle all these inputs?
Yeah.
Very simply, it throws it all out. So one of the fundamental principles I teach about memory is that the brain is built to forget, and it's actively making us forget. Now,
Yes.
when a person hears that, they go, how could that be? Why would my mind make me forget? Well, there are many reasons and actually advantages to forgetting. And one
Yes.
of them actually relates to internal resistance. Remember, I said when resistance stops us from doing something, it doesn't tell us it's stopping us or give us a reason, but instead uses manipulative tricks. And I gave an example of a manipulative trick.
Yeah.
Well, another manipulative trick is that it makes us forget. It not only makes us forget the commitment we made, but the things that we need to do to stick with the commitment. So
Yeah.
make us forget the appointment, the
Yeah.
classes, the things
Yeah.
that we can do to move the goal forward. But another reason the brain forgets is because everyone likes to say that the brain is unlimited and it's limitless. In some ways, yes, but it still has its limitations. And it can't store every information that comes its way.
Brain
So
rot.
yeah, so it's learned to throw out a lot of information that it
Yeah.
deems not helpful or useful. And so what's really important to know is if a person is receiving a lot of information on a daily basis, especially via media
Yes.
and social media and video games and all that, it's too much where it
Hmm.
can't help but start throwing things out. And then people
Yeah.
start thinking they have a bad memory. And it's not that they have a bad memory, they're just presenting it with too much information.
For sure.
And so the solution is one, cut out the amount of information you're exposing yourself to, meaning all the movies and television and all that. Or two, the information that you do want to record and remember, put effort into remembering it so it does stay in for longer.
Awesome, Cam. Okay, for those that are listening who are realizing that their brain might need some structure where they
Yes.
can, where they can come and connect with you, how can they connect with you today?
So I got 3 free gifts for everyone listening here. The
Wow.
first one is called Prompt Engineering for Your Mind. The human brain was original ChatGPT, and you can prompt it to give you answers and solutions
Okay.
just like ChatGPT. But unlike ChatGPT, you can actually prompt it to take action on the answers and solutions, and you can learn how to do that in the first guide. The second guide is on building skills and habits in your sleep. When we want to move forward in life, we have to work on reprogramming our brain
Yes.
so it aids us in our efforts versus fighting against it. And it's possible to do that with self talk, and they can learn how to do that in the second guide. And the third guide is a deeper dive into the topic of internal resistance, where they'll learn how other reasons their wants can get in the way, other causes of resistance, but more importantly, other tricks their brain uses to keep them from doing things. And they can get all 3 of those guides on my website at kamknight.com. And if they want to do one-on-one work with me, I found a way to bypass the barrier between our conscious and unconscious mind, where I could take
Wow.
people into their unconscious and work on their resistance. It's a much more direct and quick way to do it. And
Wow.
they can reach out to me at coach@kamknight.com.
And for
Awesome.
those of you, one second, for those of you listening on the radio, Kam is spelled K-A-M, and Knight is spelled K-N-I-G-H-T. So it's
Yeah.
KAMKNIGHT.com. I
Yep.
just want to make sure those of us listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all the other platforms that we have, that they know the correct spelling of your name, because I know most people would go C-A-M instead of
Yeah.
K-A-M.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I will need to make sure people in future shows, I notify them to do that too.
Well, Kam, thank you so much for coming and being on the Holy Shiftball podcast. We have thoroughly enjoyed learning more today.
Yeah.
This has
Thank
really
you.
been an eye-opening experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Honest to God, I really did.
Wow.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
from our heart to yours.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you both of you for having
Thank
me
you.
on. This was great. I know we kind of went in different directions, but we
That's
did
okay.
kind of come back to
Perfect.
it at the end. So that was great.
It's all
Thank
good.
you so much, Kam.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kam.
You're welcome.
Wow. Amazing. Like I'm so blown away. I couldn't even think of a question because I was just so involved in what he was saying. I'm like, what? Where the
Are
heck?
you having some internal resistance there?
I really was. My brain just shut down. It completely shut down. Kam was an amazing guest, and we were very fortunate to have him.
Yes.
And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We had
Yes.
Chris Pomay pop in for a while, and until he had to, so that was really nice. And thanks, Chris. Thanks for coming. And we have Woohoo Go stopping in, and Chakra Lady stopping
All
in.
right.
So thank you, everybody.
Well, Sharon,
Yes.
you are absolutely amazing. Who do we have on our show next week?
Who do we have on our show next week?
Yes.
We have Rosa Hope next week. Rosa is a PhD astrophysicist.
Whoa.
Okay. I'm amazed after today and me being so stunned. I'm amazed I can see the work. I better kick it up a notch for next week. She's also a certified transpersonal hypnotist, former performing artist, and global nomad. It would be artist that I would screw up, not astrophysicist, of course. Okay, let's start again. Rosa Hope is a PhD astrophysicist, a certified transpersonal hypnotist, former performing artist, and global nomad. She's an award-winning researcher, lecturer who has been invited to share her insights on stages across the U.S. by leading scientific conferences and spiritual communities alike. The pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and lived experience have been the guiding principle of her life. So her work focuses on one simple question: how do we human better?
Oh, how do we human better?
How do we human better? You'll have to tune in next week to find that out.
That is awesome. And be sure you can check us out on Holy Shiftballs at YouTube, or you can catch the replays on Facebook at holy.shiftballs. And you know what? I am so looking forward to kicking off our Consciousness for Dummies. This is going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to everybody tuning in and learning just as long as, like we are. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Today, I was a prime example of why we need the Consciousness for Dummies. I was just, making sure everybody understood why we're doing it.
Well, Sharon, remember, girlfriend, when life kicks you in the balls, be sure to tune in to your Holy Shiftball podcast,
where we take that shit and turn it into a shift.
All right, we'll see you next Thursday.
See you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.